Hello, my name is Samantha Jaffe. I am researching the long-term effects of standardized testing related stress on students. I began my journey in December when I was researching mapping out brain synapses and the electrical currents of your brain associated with predicting the future. This brought me to a TED Talk on the amygdala and the science of the amygdala. And it talked about how stress reduces the size of the amygdala, which is the empathy part of your brain. So it decreases your amount of empathy and causes you to go crazy, I guess, for lack of a better word. On February 2nd, I wrote a letter of reflection stating, "My name is Samantha Jaffe. I was originally tasked with researching mapping out electrical currents of the brain can be applicable to predicting the future. This research brought me to an even better topic. How connected are gifted students and psychopaths? This topic was inspired by our TED Talks on the amygdala and the neuroscience of empathy and evil. In the TED Talk, it was mentioned that stress contributes to loss of the amygdala, and the loss of the amygdala results in lack of empathy. I decided to look at the students with a lot of stress, such as gifted students, and find a correlation of their amygdala to a psychopath's amygdala. This research could be extremely beneficial in creating better work environments for students and better rehabilitation for psychopaths in stimulating their amygdala to encourage empathy and education." In that letter, I stated how I got my idea. That led me to talk about expectation causes stress and students in general. I want to focus on the general students because not all students are gifted, though gifted students are a huge part of the study on stress and how detrimental it can be because of their levels of stress, but every student experiences stress. Now, I decided to focus on Finland because of their really different and successful education system. Their education system is foreign, obviously, to America. It is completely different, and it could be really, really good for American schools. Now, why are Finland's schools so successful? Well, Finland's school accomplishes some impressive feats. Their high school graduation rate is at 93% compared to 78% in Canada and 75% in the US. About 2 in 3 students in Finland will go to college. That's the highest rate in all of Europe. And their test scores dominate everyone else. Mean scores for PISA test, Program for International Students Assessment, 2006. Finland hit over 50 points higher than Hong Kong, than Canada, Taiwan, Estonia, Japan, New Zealand, Australia, Netherlands, and Liechtenstein. Way higher than all of those. They reached a 560, whereas Liechtenstein reaches a little over a 520. Students get plenty of teacher interaction. Finland and New York City have the same number of teachers, but Finland has nearly half the number of students. And Finland students are 600,000. Students to teacher ratio is 1 to 12. In New York City, there are almost 1.1 million students. Student to teacher ratio is 1 to 24. Though 1 in 3 Finnish schools receive some sort of special help in school, there are no separate classrooms for accelerated learning or special education. This includes gifted students. There are no separate classrooms for them, but they are helped as a gifted student. They are not standards. They are just a certain way you teach someone. No, they help every student. Kids have more time to be kids. An average U.S. 5th grader has 15 minutes of homework a day. Finnish students rarely do homework until their teens. While U.S. elementary schools average 27 minutes of research, students in Finland get about 75 minutes a day. This reduces stress and helps students have a very happy school year, though, because they're in it for most of their lives. Teachers in Finland are all required to have a master's degree, which is fully subsidized by the state. Only the top 10% of graduates are accepted into teaching programs, and Finland's teachers are esteemed as doctors or lawyers, as they should be, because they are teaching the world's youth, and the world's youth is the world's future. Teachers are helping them the entire time they're youthful and affecting the future. And finally, standardized testing is kept to a minimum. Before a New York student reaches high school, he or she will have taken 10 standardized tests. Collectively, U.S. students take 100 million standardized tests a year. Finland's only standardized test is taken when students are 16 years old. And I chose to focus on standardized testing as a means of huge amounts of stress on students. Now, why did I choose standardized testing? Well, the obvious answer is that I started this research during exam time, so I was more able to interview students on their views on standardized testing and how standardized testing has affected their stress levels. I got a lot of feedback on they felt a lot of pressure to pass, so they didn't test well. I got a lot of students that said they didn't test well, though these are smart students in AP classes that just can't take a good test. They feel pressure to pass this test because they're quote-unquote smart. But if they don't pass this test, which a lot of them know they won't, because they don't usually pass these tests, they feel a lot of stress, a lot of shame, they feel bad, they feel anxiety. But the other reason is a quote by Albert Einstein that says, "If you judge a fish on its ability to climb a tree, it will spend its entire life believing it's stupid." This quote is applicable to standardized testing because we test every single student despite their ability, despite the way they learn, despite how well they're doing in school, how their family situation, all these factors pertaining to the ability of this student. We give them the same exact test, and it determines everything. The SAT determines what college they go to, what their future is. It determines how a student thinks of themselves. It determines how well a student is going to do in life. There's one test that certain students may excel in because it's geared towards them, whereas other students won't excel in it because they learn a different type of way. And I wrote a letter to Professor Kiefer, I'm pretty sure that's how you pronounce it, of William and Mary about stress, and I asked him certain questions. This letter contains most of my research and how I came to this topic of stress. The letter states, "Dear Professor Kiefer, my name is Samantha Jaffe, and I'm a freshman at Frank W. Cox High School. Currently, I'm doing an independent study on how students who encounter excessive amounts of stress may suffer damage to the empathy part of their brain. Specifically, I want to focus on gifted students, how they handle stress, and if some may develop mental disorders due to excessive stress. I would love to have the opportunity to discuss views on the amygdala and how stress affects learning as an expert in the field of cognitive deficits and psychophysiology. Here are some of the questions I would like to discuss. The American Psychological Association had an article in December 2000 with the headline, "Normal children today report more anxiety than child psychiatric patients in the 1950s. Is this a problem? In what ways can this be dealt with? How detrimental can this amount of anxiety be? Could the previous statistic be skewed due to the differences in how anxiety was measured in the 1950s and the 2000s? Are there any specific causes of this new wave of extreme anxiety in children? Is education a contributing factor to anxiety? Can this be reduced by less stress in education? Are there any specific... According to an article entitled Stress, Memory, and the Amygdala from the U.S. National Library of Medicine, factors such as stress reduce the functionality of the amygdala, creating lack of empathy. Has education-related stress ever been a concern of people who study cognitive deficits? If so, what are ways experts are going about the problem? What are some of the issues experts in your field are encountering lately pertaining to gifted students? Have any studies been done to show stress of gifted students compared to stress of levels on children who are not tested gifted? One of my tasks for this independent study is to come with possible solutions to the problem of educational stress on gifted students and to present my solution in a manner in which a professional would. My idea for a solution revolve around identifying a problem. I can actually read that because it's sideways on the computer and it won't let me turn that. But some solutions that I come up with, the main solution that I want to focus on is limiting standardized testing the way Finland did. I believe Finland is setting a very good example on how stress is handled. And standardized testing is handled. If we reduce the amount of standardized testing, one certain test by one, then we will be able to see how this affects our students, if our students are happy, or we can send out surveys and see how this is doing. If this isn't a possible solution, or if things don't improve, we can go on to the next factor, which may be homework or research. But I strongly believe my hypothesis that standardized testing is creating excessive amount of stress on students. And this could be a solution. Thank you.